Hey, what's going on, everyone? And welcome to another episode of Talking in Bits. But before we actually get to the show, I wanted to remind you guys that Talking in Bits is completely 100% audience funded. What that basically means is that you will never have to sit through no ads while you're listening to Talking in Bits. And the only way we can continue to do that and have been able to do that is with contributions and donations with great listeners such as yourself. So in order to keep that spirit alive, there's a few ways that you can actually donate to the show. My favorite way is Podcasting 2.0 apps. There's a bunch of them out there, but my two favorite are Fountain app and Breeze. And with these apps, it's basically like any other podcasting app. You can subscribe to Talking in Bits. You can load up some sats into the wallet, and you can set how many sats per minute you think Talking in Bits is worth or how much value you're receiving from Talking in Bits. You can do this from both of those apps. Another really cool feature in these apps, these Podcast 2.0 apps, is the Boost feature. And what the Boost feature is basically you get to pick a certain amount of sats that you want to send in, and you can embed a message inside of that transaction into the show. And what I'm going to do is, week to week, the best ones that come in, I'm going to read them and give shout outs here live on the show. So that's another way that you can help keep this ad-free and keep this content rolling. If you're not using the Podcast 2.0 apps, then you can head on over to talkinginbits.com/donate. And there you'll find various links to be able to send in Lightning, to be able to send on-chain, and even to Paynim. So go check out the website. That's another way to contribute. And if you're listening to us on the legacy outlets like YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, then you could do the good old-fashioned leave a review, share, subscribe. All that stuff helps and helps us float up higher so more people can get this value and more people could get everything that we want to provide to our listeners. So once again, we appreciate you. The only reason we've been able to keep this up is because of y'all, and we want to keep that going for as long as we can. All right, without further ado, on to this week's episode.
Scarcity premium. Cannot exceed 21 million. The hardest money that has ever been invented.
I also made the case for owning Bitcoin. The quintessence of scarcity premium.
Scarcity premium.
It's literally the only large tradable asset in the world that has a known fixed maximum supply. By its design, the total quantity of Bitcoins cannot exceed 21 million.
Cannot exceed 21 million.
Bitcoin is the hardest money that has ever been invented.
If you don't have my private key, you cannot spend my Bitcoin, period. And this is the power of Bitcoin.
It's the first time we figured out how to create true property that you can take possession of with full custodial rights.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Talking in Bits, where we walk you through Bitcoin bit by bit so we can provide you with the information you need to succeed and persist. Back with episode 71, and I'm very fortunate and super grateful to have the great Gigi on. What's going on, Gigi? Thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me again.
Hey, you're very welcome. We were just talking about the last time, and things were very simple for Talking in the Bits then, and now I'm glad that you're willing to come back and see how far we've grown. So thanks, man. Appreciate that.
You've quite an amazing studio now. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, well, fun fact, the rest of the room looks like shit. This is just a little corner here that we keep looking nice for the show. But Gigi, man, you're an amazing, not only follow on Bitcoin, but an amazing leader in Bitcoin, in my opinion. You're in my Mount Rushmore of Bitcoiners. I'm just going to give you a softball question. Who's on your Mount Rushmore of Bitcoiners before we get deeper into the combo?
I'm not even sure if that's a softball question. That's quite hard.
Is it?
I mean, there are so many amazing people in Bitcoin from all different walks of life, and everyone provides their own different perspective and a piece of the puzzle, I guess, and just a different viewpoint. And so for me, definitely, the guys that are very high up there are Bitstein and Pierre Rochard. I mean, Bitstein is just a genius in my book, and I learned a lot from him. Definitely Matt and Marty too. I mean, I cherish them both. They're both like brothers to me. I still listen to every episode basically. So like you spend a lot of time with those people in these one-way friendships, and I'm lucky to call both of them my friends proper now. And I mean, definitely, like when studying the prehistory of Bitcoin and just the history in Bitcoin in general, there are many people that stick out that just thought about these things for a very, very long time. I mean, of course, Adam Beck is like, there's a reason why I call him Chad M. Beck, he's such a Chad.
Definitely Chad, yeah.
And he's still, he's still working on all this stuff. And he's also a little bit of a degenerate trader, which I like, actually. I don't trade myself, but he's known to.
Gives you a little taste of it.
Yeah, he's known to try to maximize his Bitcoin holdings, I guess, with trading. I don't know. And I mean, there's so many people.
Right.
The writings of Sabo are absolutely incredible. If you haven't read everything that Nick Sabo ever wrote, stop listening right now and just go get after it and read.
Definitely.
And again, it's a really hard question because there are so many amazing engineers, and what they are doing is super interesting, just from the cryptography side, for example, or from the network side. And there's also, so much of the Austrian thought that's, that Bitcoin now kindled again. And of course, the great Austrians, it's very easy to say nice things about that people because they don't have the ability to fuck up anymore. So Mises and Rothbard and all the rest of them, of course, great minds. But there are some younger peoples and living economists now that kind of breathe new life into the Austrian school, and they definitely helped me a lot to understand the economic side of things. So I don't know, many people I just want to point out, I like to remind everyone I'm also just some dude, sitting in the basement, just liking the orange coin. I don't see myself as a leader or anything like that. I just read so much about Bitcoin and thought so much about it and wrote some things, and that's basically all but I'm just another pleb like many other plebs.
No, and I do respect that humbleness. I think it's just a matter of like when you came in, right? So for me, you would be up there, and I know you're saying like, nah, no way, but like it's just when I came in, I gravitated towards your work, right? And it takes for a specific person to put in the work, right? Because you could have easily absorbed all these greats that you just named there, took all that information and did nothing with it. You could have just kept it to yourself. You could have just continued to like the orange coin in your basement and done nothing. But because you took the extra step there and said, okay, well, now I want to, harvest all that information, take it through me, and now, give it back in a different arena, whether it's your writing, even whether it's just ship posting on Twitter, right? Like you take that energy, you pushed it out the other way. I came in, right, at a later time. And then I was like, who's this Gigi guy? And then just down your rabbit hole I go, right? So it's humbling for you to say that. You don't really think of yourself as such, but I'm going to fight that back and say you up there on my Mount Rushmore.
I still consider myself mostly a shit poster. That I'm definitely I'm definitely guilty of spending too much time on Twitter. But it's just also so much fun, it blows my mind every day that some weird, funny magic internet money is kind of disrupting the whole world and bringing the fiat system that is in control of nation states to its knees, and there's some anonymous, pseudonymous, laser-eyed people with very weird avatars and very weird names on Twitter that are just laughing about it all and laughing about the mainstream economists and their predictions, and it's just the old system is so insane that you have two choices. You can either cry or you can laugh about it, and so I choose to laugh about it, and so every day is kind of hilarious, even though, of course, the house of cards is it's not only collapsing, it's burning down, it's going up in flames while it's collapsing, and that's of course very painful for many people, and a lot of value is lost and a lot of value is misallocated and all the rest of it. But still, it's funny that Bitcoin just works, and everyone who kind of tries to improve upon Bitcoin doesn't understand Bitcoin really, and everyone fails to kind of make sense of it all, or most people fail to make sense of it all, and just it's the bell curve meme that captures it perfectly. Like, after 10,000 hours of studying Bitcoin, you'll realize staying humble and stacking is the best thing you can do. And just, you don't need to do much more than that. And it's like very much like left side and right side of the bell curve, just, number go up and just shit posting on Twitter and, doing whatever you do and just stacking sets and you'll be fine, and you'll outperform, all the hedge fund managers, and you'll outperform all the, financial pros that claim to know how the markets work or what have you. And so yeah, I think it's just very, very hilarious that we are in this situation and that Bitcoin is here to save us, basically.
Yeah, I think a lot of people. Well, first of all, the part about like you either have to laugh or you cry is 1,000%. I think that's like the whole like the TLDR of clown world is basically that. Like it's so painful to watch, especially here in the US when you're watching these politicians, literally the president of the whole freaking country, just literally fall on his face. It's comical because it's like holy shit, but it's so scary too that it's like holy shit. So I think you hit that on the head. And on the back end of that, I think people would be listening to this right now and will find it hard to believe that this magic internet money is saving us from all that madness. Yeah, they would just be like, "You're crazy. You're what was it that Bitcoiners were called? Psychopaths? Yeah, we're all psychopaths."
Yeah, of course, and it's kind of true as well, and we are accused of being in a cult, in a cult, and that's definitely true as well. And it sounds way too easy, and it sounds way too simplistic, and that is true too. And I've also heard from multiple people, that it sounds too good to be true. Just stay humble and stack, and you'll be fine, and you'll bring about the new world order basically with this and fix the world. And but it is true, which is why it's so hilarious. And usually if you hear something like Bitcoin, it is a scam, and most people rightfully so think that at first that it is a scam, and it's a pyramid scheme and it will never work and so on. And I thought this too, it took me multiple years to kind of get over the first hump. I told this story of I think that I thought I knew my computer science, and I knew that every computer system can be hacked, and so I dismissed Bitcoin for the longest time, and I was just laughing about it and thought it's so stupid, and it's like Fortnite V-Bucks would be today's comparison. Previously it was Second Life had its own currency, and World of Warcraft had its own currency, and it was all it was all the same. It all kind of it all got exploited and duplicated and hacked and was worthless and so on. And these things were traded too, on eBay, and accounts with a lot of gold or a lot of items were traded. So that's how I viewed Bitcoin back in the day. And so I never took it seriously. And so I have a lot of sympathy for the people that still don't take it seriously. But I mean, for God's sakes, do a little bit of homework. It's been 13 years now, and all the traditional markets begin to melt down. And it should be obvious by now that, especially with the COVID money printing and just injecting trillions and trillions into the system, it doesn't matter if it's the euro or the dollar or what have you. It's kind of obvious that it's all a Ponzi scheme and it's all made up. And so, yeah, now the system is beginning to fail, I guess, or probably began a while ago to fail, but it just becomes increasingly obvious, and people should just start to pay attention, because the longer you try to ignore this, and the longer it takes you to see the things for what they are, the more painful it will be, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, and with everything that's going on now, actually literally to the moment with price action and a lot of the newbies coming in and never seeing this type of swing before, what kind of, because there's going to be some newly minted maxis that come out of this. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people that get basically cash out and run away, and the new maxis. But if you had like a message from your previous experience or something to kind of give them some more oomph, if that makes sense, what would you say to the newborn maxis that are being fused right now in the fire?
Who would have thought that like 20% yield Ponzi schemes would implode? No one could have ever guessed that. Just give me your Bitcoin and I'll give you like 20% every week. I mean, it's also stupid. People are just really greedy, and people don't know the difference between money and currency, between investment and saving, and it's all kind of deliberately cobbled together. And I don't even blame the people, I blame the fiat system basically, and I also blame that there's zero financial education ever. Like, it doesn't matter what you do or where you go. Like, I know people that work at very high positions in banks, and they have no idea what money is, so it's very hard for regular people to kind of understand what is the difference of, for example, I don't know, buying a gold certificate or holding physical gold or putting money into stocks or, buying into an index fund or what have you. Like I guess to everyone, it's just all the same, and just the return percentage changes, and so if you put some money in this thing and you get like 1%, and you put some money into this other thing and you get negative 2%, and there's now this new thing and you get positive 20% returns in Bitcoin. And that sounds great, And so it's just what people need to understand, that Bitcoin is savings, and all the short little memes in Bitcoin, they're all true. Not your keys, not your Bitcoin. You should also run your own node, but first and foremost, not your keys, not your Bitcoin. You have to hold your own keys. You need to take responsibility. You need to hold your own keys. You are in control. You have to take self-custody. Second of all, stay humble, stack sats. And most people forget the stay humble part, like you really don't do leverage. Leverage and Bitcoin does not mix. Don't overextend yourself. Bitcoin goes up and down. And just stay humble and stack. Do whatever you're good at. Provide value to the world, and you will get value back. And it doesn't matter how this value is denominated. If you're earning yen or euro or US dollar or Turkish lira or sats directly, it doesn't matter. Just take whatever you can spare, 1% of your weekly or monthly income or your daily income, or 5% or 10% or 20% or 50%. It doesn't matter. Whatever you can spare, whatever does not wipe you out, and just sack that and just automate it so that you don't have to think about it. Always, take care that the implications of Auto DCA. All Auto DCA services require KYC as of now.
Oh, yeah.
And so just educate yourself, start slowly. Again, don't overextend yourself. Most important thing is hold your own keys and learn along the way. Like it's very difficult. It's very, very new. It's still very easy to shoot yourself in the foot, and just, adjust your setups accordingly. Like if you're earning more money, stack more. If you're sure that, you don't need a lot of runway because you have a very secure job, for example, then, you might get away with stacking a bit more. If you don't hold a lot of Bitcoin yet, it's perfectly fine to have like a wallet on a phone or something. If you have a lot, probably get a hardware wallet. If you have really a lot, probably get like multiple hardware wallets, or get a multi-sig setup, or do collaborative custody with one of the services that provide it, like an Unchained or a Casa or what have you. And so that's my advice. Just don't be stupid. Bitcoin is absolutely amazing and awesome. You don't need to be greedy. Everyone who's stacking sats is long-term greedy anyway. Like Bitcoin will outperform absolutely everything. Like it has outperformed absolutely everything, and it will continue to do so in the future. And it's your thing. No one can steal from you. No one can take Bitcoin away from you if you do it correctly. And that's the most important thing. Do it correctly, and then you can't get wrecked. And just try to become un-ruggable in general. The rug pulls will not stop. You'll get rugged by absolutely everyone. Crypto will rug pull you. Probably your government will rug pull you. Maybe your employer will rug pull you, and so on and so forth. It is what it is. So just try to educate yourself and position yourself correctly in this chaotic world.
Yeah, real estate will rug pull you. I got
of course, real estate is a shitcoin.
Yeah, well, I got a funny story to intervene here with. Is literally yesterday. So we're gonna sell this house here, and we were gonna make the move. I work for Unchained Capital, so we're gonna make the move down to Austin. And we had the moving trucks already ordered, lease down there in Austin already ordered. Or maybe I'm divulging too much for the listeners, but either way. And then we got a phone call yesterday where the buyer of this house just rug pulled us. They basically just said, "Oh, we're not gonna buy this house."
There you go.
And I'm just like,
there you go.
Holy
and they
shit.
in turn were probably rug pulled by Luna or something, and now they're broke.
Well, they were probably rug pulled by the state because they were just trying to get a loan. They were rug pulled by the bank is what happened. But like even though they were like assured by the bank that they had the lending, they had a pre-approval. That's kind of how it works over here. You got to show a pre-approval to make sure that you can afford the house. That in turn makes us take the house off the market because you guys have a pre-approval, et cetera, And then the bank must have just rug pulled them and said, even though we gave you this approval a few weeks ago, Uncle Joe up in D.C. decided to raise, some type of number there. They try to move these little digits around the Fed. And now you can't afford this loan. So now you got to go rug pull you, and now you got to go ahead and rug pull Jose, right? Which is, it's mind-boggling. But no, you're right. I wanted to talk about, the private keys and taking ownership. I see this at work every single day because we help with multi-signature setups and we help clients get onboarded. It seems to still stump the majority of people. Like when you talk about what a private key is, and when you talk about quorums and public keys for that matter, and seed phrases and this. What are your thoughts on how we can? I don't even know if there's an answer for this, but your thoughts on like how we can get closer to more of a standard where it becomes understandable for the majority.
Yeah, I hope to publish a piece on that soon, which is about the terminology and the words used in Bitcoin and all the confusion around it, and also how these words, how this misunderstanding is used to attack people. It mostly revolves around the European Union trying to ban unhosted wallets and so on, and just the fact that the term unhosted wallet is already a linguistic attack and completely nonsensical. I talked to Stefan about this briefly. Unfortunately, I still wasn't able to finish the piece, but I hope to do it soon. And so my thoughts are that, again, I have a lot of sympathy for these people, because if you're not a cryptographer, if you don't come from computer science background, like the private keys, public keys, like this naming alone is absolutely terrible. Like it sounds as if those two things are the same, but they're anything but. Like, what's the difference between a private key and a public key to a newbie? It's like that's why people send around the private keys sometimes, because they just don't know. So just also from the get-go, I mean, those are cryptographic keys. Cryptographic keys are very, very different than regular keys that open your car, or open your house, or open a door, or open a chest, or what have you. That's not how Bitcoin works. The keys, as we as Bitcoiners know, are used for signing, and this is very confusing. Usually you use a pen for signing, like it's... So all the wording is just super, super confusing, and we just never had anything like that, because people are very bad at keeping information safe, because keeping information safe, like a private key is a secret and no one else should know. And so that's very hard to do, because if you have a gold bar, for example, you can have the gold bar in your bedroom, for example, in the drawer, and it's fine. It sits there, and periodically you can go in and check. And even if people are at your house, like they might, see the gold bar but not steal it, and what have you. You will, like you can do a quick check if someone leaves, like any of the bags unusual heavy and stuff like that. So we are very good with securing physical things and thinking about physical things. But if you have like a seed plate in this drawer, or like a paper with your 12 or 24 words on it, like one glance is enough. If someone has a really good photographic memory, or like a smartphone in their pocket to take a picture, your money is gone. So it is very difficult to reason about it, and like hardware wallets of course make all of this better, but it's also like depending on the device you use and so on, it's very hard to reason about these attack vectors. Like if you have a phone, for example, and you have quite a bit of money on the phone might be compromised. Like if your signing device, to use NVK's language that I like way more, is hot, if it's connected to the internet, then you might already be in trouble. And people are just very bad at thinking about these things, because private keys haven't been around for like millions of years, and physical things have been around for that long. So we are very good with dealing with physical things, and so I think that's the root of the problem. And in the end, we have to kind of, I mean, we are already getting better with talking about these things, and that's why we talk about seed phrases, for example. A seed phrase and vaults, for example, cryptographic vaults or multi-signature vaults. A vault is something that is immediately very different than like a wallet. Right. You understand that it takes a long time to take something out of a vault again, and it holds way more money than just a wallet. And so I think our language and our collective understanding just has to evolve, and then more people will realize what is the difference between cold storage and like a Lightning wallet and those kind of things. And we are coming up with these words that makes it a little bit easier to reason about all this. But it is very difficult, like what is a wallet in the first place? I mean, we have so many wallets, like we have brain wallets and paper wallets and so on and so forth. And like, what really is a wallet? What is important for storage is the private key material. And okay, what is a private key? It's just information. And that's why we can transform it into 12 words, and then we have a seed phrase and so on. And so even talking about like people ask me, for example, what wallet should I use? And I'm like, okay, what do you even mean? Like it's it's a big difference if you're talking about 12 words stamped into steel or like a lightning wallet. It's all just difficult to reason about. And I think the metaphors that we use are kind of imperfect, and that's why it's so difficult for people to understand, because it's very new. Nothing like this ever existed before. It's very hard to think about it properly. I think that's all there is to it.
Yeah, so with time, it'll start to clear out more contributions in the network and more companies. This will start to get better, in your opinion, over time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, another good example is, like, people are absolutely terrible when it comes to passwords. Passwords are inherently broken. Like, letting the users decide their own passwords is like the most stupid idea ever. like literally like 95% of the passwords are like password 123 or 12345 or
that is
like
true.
It's if you look into leaks of password lists, it's absolutely horrible. And so we kind of figured out how to improve this, and we improved this with password managers and automatic password generation and two-factor authentication and those kind of things. And I think we will go to a similar kind of learning process with management of private key material, where like you just have like, if you hold your multi-generational wealth somewhere, you will just use whatever is the de facto industry standard, and it's probably like a multi-sig with a time lock and multiple layers and multiple, like, you should make it really hard to access to move these funds. And if you just have a spending wallet on Lightning, then maybe there are some limits. Maybe it can only hold a certain amount, and it doesn't really matter. And it's also fine if you, I don't know, use like your biometrics of your phone to unlock it, and that's it. And you have some, cloud backup that just encrypts something and pushes it to the Google Cloud or what have you. And that's where I see all these things developing. And I mean, in the end, we'll see. Like, lots of pain will be had still until we figure all this out.
But like, when you talk about like, making it difficult to get to, isn't adding complexity also a way to shoot yourself in the foot? Like, an easy example, which is not as deep as time locks, in my opinion, would be specifically with the Trezor, right? So people adding a passphrase on top of their seed phrase seems to like really destroy people's wealth, and in certain situations lock people out for good, because they just they think the passphrase is just a simple password and they forget about it. And it, like I said, it just ends up screwing them over when they go to recover with their seed phrases and didn't either write down the passphrase or thought that it wasn't as important. And so that's a complexity feature there that, although is better for security in theory, doesn't really seem to be working well when it comes to adding security. It's more of a fault.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's all trade-offs kind of all the way down. It's if you just have the 12 words in your drawer, then someone visits and has snaps a picture, then you're screwed. And so a seed phrase would have been great. A passphrase, sorry. So
that's true.
I don't know. It's very hard to answer this. It depends on your setup and your risk appetite and what you know. I mean, multisig is also a great example. Like, a lot of people try to set up their own multisig and they fail to back up all the data they needed, and suddenly the space of addresses where your funds could be is so large that you have just no way of finding out where your funds are, even though you have the key material, so to speak. And it's just all difficult. But I mean, we'll figure this out in time. I'm not too worried. It already got way better than it was. Like, I mean, back in the very early days, some OGs. I wasn't around at that time, but you had to just every time you generate a new address, you had to back up your whole wallet, that file, and all the rest of it. So that was the only way to back up your stuff. So we didn't even have deterministic wallets. We didn't even have HD wallets. So every single, like, the software would generate a new private key for every address always, and you had to back up like hundreds of private keys manually, and it was just all kinds of terrible. And so this improved a lot already. Just the fact that we have seed phrases and HD wallets is amazing. And so yeah, I think it will get better still, and I think it will also get kind of more obvious still how everything works, that you have these signing devices and you just, as you said before, you might want to have a quorum of these signing devices, like 2 out of 3. And then you just need 2 of these 3 signing devices to sign off on a transaction. And that's kind of understandable. Like you can understand, like you can explain this to a layperson in like, half an hour or something, and they will probably figure it out. It doesn't mean that they will be perfect with handling key material from the get-go, but I think we already got better of understanding all of this, and I think we'll get better still.
Yeah, I agree, especially with the HD wallet example. You're right. Like just like I wasn't around for that, but just to think to not have that would be mind-boggling to me. And there's a lot of OGs that definitely went without it. So
yeah, a lot of money was lost because of it. It's just you didn't. I mean, there are all these tragic stories. I mean, in hindsight, it's obviously funny, but like someone threw away the laptop, and they forgot to back up their wallet. They didn't think about it, and then it's like like 150 million US dollars worth of Bitcoin on a laptop, and they're suing the landfill that they want to do an excavation mission at the landfill, and like all these stories are true. Like all of this happened, and I think some of those things will repeat themselves. I think people are still losing Bitcoin right now, unfortunately, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, for sure. So just for shits and giggles, if we use signing device as the word for a hardware wallet, the seed phrase would be, or the private key would be, the ink in the signing device?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we already kind of changed the vocabulary, like I think signing devices is perfectly fitting for hardware wallets, and the fact that we like seed plates, seed phrases, like seed steel, those kind of words, we use them already. Like we are not talking about private keys really anymore in that context. We're talking about seed phrases and about steel plates, and I think that drives home the point that probably if it's like your life savings, don't put it on paper because paper burns.
Right.
And so like you just have to think about these things. That's the implication of taking responsibility of your own money.
So overall, and I know you have a computer science background, but so overall, for the people that say that Bitcoin is just too techy for them to try, is that because it is, or is that because they're not taking ownership and just trying to figure it out?
I would say a little bit of both. Very much like, the internet is too techy for people to try it and to understand it. But now we have smartphones, and your smartphone connects to Wi-Fi automatically, and, everything just works and is perfect. And you don't even have to understand how it works. I mean, cars are very technical too. How many people can repair the car if it breaks down? Like basically zero people.
Yeah.
Everyone can drive, so it's just about kind of making it more user-friendly, of course, but it's also, in Bitcoin, there are some things that you just can't abstract away, just like there are some things on the internet or with cars that you can't abstract away. Like you need to have certain elements or it wouldn't be Bitcoin anymore, just like with the internet, you need to have certain elements, otherwise it wouldn't be the internet anymore. And people just need to understand those things, like, web addresses and IP addresses and those kind of things would be one example. And for Bitcoin, it's, again, like it's addresses, private keys, the way the system works. If that changes, it wouldn't be Bitcoin anymore. Like if everyone would just use Coinbase and usernames on Coinbase, then that's not Bitcoin anymore. Like that's again, we return to the fiat banking system that we want to move away from. So I think not everything can be abstracted away. We can't. Like there's always this trade-off of making it easy to use and kind of losing the properties that make the system great in the first place. And so we have to find a balance there. And I think it's possible. I mean, we see already with Lightning, for example, I really like Breeze for this reason, that the Breeze manages to do non-custodial Lightning in a really nice way. And I think it is possible to have self-custody, to get this into like almost everyone's hand. I mean, there are certain scaling limitations to Bitcoin. We can't even onboard everyone to Lightning, for example, in a non-custodial fashion. It will take a very long time just because of the rate limiting of Bitcoin. Like, there's only so many transactions we can do on chain in a day, and so onboarding like 8 billion people would take a very long time. But still, it's it's never about having everything work perfectly from the get-go. All systems improve and scale with use, and that was true for the internet as well. The internet never scaled. Like, the pipes were always full, because you increase the bandwidth, you improve the protocols, you make everything more efficient, and people start to stream audio over the pipes. And now we have like 4K video, and like, we have the most amazing technology, and we like it's insane how much the internet scaled. But still, like, now we have 4K Netflix video streaming all the time. Every single, Zoom call is like with video, very high quality. And, if the latency is higher than like 20 milliseconds, people lose their minds. And so it's just, it is what it is. And the same will be true for Bitcoin, that that there are certain constraints to these systems. Like the internet also can't scale indefinitely. Bitcoin also can't scale indefinitely. And for Bitcoin, it's all about kind of how much value is settled in these 10-minute intervals. And in the Bitcoin world, it will be all about byte, like value per byte, like byte density, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And we can build systems on top, just like the Lightning Network. And of course, like another example would be the Fedimint idea, where you have Chaumian banks on top that work in an interchangeable way with each other, and then it can scale to 8 billion people, like no problem. But it won't be, not every single transaction will be an on-chain transaction, of course. So it's the constraints of decentralized systems. There is no way around it.
Yeah, so pivoting to just Lightning and decentralized systems, I've seen a bunch of conversations go back and forth. Now, you brought up Breeze that does it non-custodial. But I still find that the majority are looking for the convenience of a custodial Lightning wallet, like say maybe a Cash App wallet. Do you think there's a world where both of these type of strategies work, right? Where we still honor the decentralized properties of Bitcoin and Lightning as a combination, if the majority of the people rather used it on a PayPal 2.0, basically, on a Cash App Lightning wallet. And what do you think one trumps over the other?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think people will always use convenience first. I think we've learned this over the years, and people will also choose safety over freedom, kind of. I think we learned this over the last 2.5 years very clearly. So very few people will take self-responsibility and will cherish these freedoms. These freedoms, like we usually only cherish the freedoms once we lose them. So once you get rugged, then you will learn. And I think that's how people will learn. The important characteristic of Lightning in general, open protocols in general, is that we have to keep the exit costs very, very low. If a run on banks, so to speak, can happen, if you can move your funds in an instant out of a custodial wallet, for example, then I don't see that there is a big issue, because for most people, I guess, they don't want to be their own bank. They want to be with a custodian. They don't want to take control. They don't want to take responsibility. I don't like that, but that's just the fact of like the world and the fact of human psychology, I guess. And in those, like, but that's also a very Western viewpoint. Like in most countries, these systems do not work. You cannot trust the bank, for example. You cannot trust the custodian. You cannot trust politicians. You cannot trust anyone. Everyone gets rugged all the time. So people really like to take control of their financial situation, for example. And so, if your state, for example, turns out authoritarian, you probably want to, pull your funds from wherever they are and get into self-custody and so on. And as long as this is still possible, I think we're in a good spot. So if the pressure increases, so to speak, and if you have to, want to, need to take self-custody and use the censorship-resistant properties of Bitcoin to your advantage, then, and if it's still possible to do so, then I think we're in a good spot. The problem with this is, of course, that we already saw with Robinhood and other players where you could buy paper Bitcoin, you could buy Bitcoin IOUs, and you didn't even have a proper claim on them. Like you were not able to withdraw the Bitcoin from the platform, so they didn't really like exist in the first place, I guess. I don't know. And so that's very dangerous. So people should not ever use these services. I think in general, you should aim to, again, as I said in the beginning, improve your setup, improve the way you use Bitcoin, take small steps to become more self-sovereign, like every day, every week. And that way, you reduce the risk for yourself. And I think it's all about risk reduction, because the general macro environment and everything, I think the world in general will be very uncertain in the next couple of years. So it's good to set yourself up that you just can't get rocked so easily.
Yeah. And back to the Breeze example, I like that because you do get the best of both worlds there, where it's like you de-risk yourself from, potentially Cash App shutting down the Lightning implementation and then you being stuck there. But you also don't have to deal with like the channel management that you would like on a Zeus wallet, right? Where you have your own node and you're running it that way. So Breeze is like kind of sitting in the middle there. Well, I mean, I guess technically they could shut down their app, but the likelihood of that being because of regulation like Cash App is highly unlikely. But also they handle the channel management for you, so you can interact with the Lightning Network and not have to be, I hate to use the word techie, but you know what I mean, like be engulfed in how to balance channels and do all that stuff.
Yeah, and also to be fair, it's everything is still very, very young. We're still insanely early, and like the layer of like the whole idea of a Lightning service provider, for example, is very new, and we just have to build out these various layers. Just like, again, I think the internet is a perfect comparison. You have like the large undersea cables that provide the backbone of the internet. You have the internet service providers. You have the last mile that brings actually internet to, the end customer and all the rest of it. And you have wireless networking and so on. And you have all these different routing protocols that no one knows about, I mean, most people know about TCP/IP, but there's like 5 different other protocols that are just for backbone routing and allocation of, large chunks of data and those kind of things, like how to do all this properly. And I think the same will be true in Bitcoin as well, that we just have to learn how to provide liquidity, how to do routing on Lightning properly. And I also really hope that we will have multiple solutions to these problems, not only Lightning, but also other scaling solutions that hopefully will pop up over time. Yeah, so basically we just need to figure out how to do routing on Lightning properly, how to allocate liquidity properly. We need to build out these various layers where you have multiple service providers that provide these things to the people. And I think it will improve massively in the next couple of years. I mean, iteration on Lightning can go way, way, way quicker than it can go on Bitcoin, because we don't need global consensus for Lightning. And all of this will be improved, there's a lot of work to be done still on multipath payments. Renee did some great work there, and this will be implemented, I guess, soon in some of the implementations. Just routing in general, path probing, optimizing for what, do you want to have the lowest fees or the shortest path or like the highest success probability and so on. And also in terms of liquidity, just how to think about liquidity, how to build out the services that provide liquidity to users. I mean, Breeze has done a lot of work there as well. Like if someone for example, someone starts a Podcasting 2.0 podcast, wants to receive streaming sets instantly, what do you need to do? How can you do it most cheaply? How do you allocate the liquidity? Who opens the channels and how is this done? We'll also have, like channel factories, dual funded channels, all this stuff is being built out. So I'm not too worried. We'll figure these things out, and it will be very different in 5 years from now.
Yeah, and it's super, me personally, super excited. I think the Lightning, landscape is definitely the Wild West, right? There's a lot of territories that are being claimed. There's a lot of innovation that's happening in that arena. I've been talking to a few guests lately, Keon from Stacker News specifically, what was a really good example that he gave me, where he was like, when I asked him about the different flavors of Lightning, if that would be a problem, right? Like the C Lightning versus LND versus And he was basically saying, similar to piggyback on your internet example, he was basically saying, well, he sees them more like internet browsers, right? So it's like some people really like the convenience of Chrome. Some people like the privacy of Tor, right? Some people like Brave browser, but they all seem to connect to the internet, still seem to do the things that people needed to do. And ever since I had that talk with him, I was like blown away by that like framing of it. I was like, that's incredible.
Yeah, I and it's also like the beautiful thing about Lightning is you only need 2 people for Lightning, basically. Like the rest is a bonus, but you don't need global consensus. You can have like a private channel between 2 big, Chaumian banks, for example, and they can utilize the ideas in Lightning to settle money instantly, basically. And if others use the same specification and are interoperable with you, then you can build up those, like those chained routing channels where, you have these paths and this network build up and so on. But I mean, it would be great if most of the implementations would be compatible, like would have some way to be interoperable, but it's not required. It's not an issue if they branch off in different things and focus on different things and so on. We'll see. I'm confident that the market will figure this out. It's just whatever makes the most sense, people will use whatever is most efficient, and we'll see. I'm not too worried about this. I'm not too worried in general. Like all of Lightning could fail and Bitcoin would still be fine.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. But yeah, I just, I like having these talks because the FUD, not so much recently, but as of a few months ago, where that like Lightning doesn't work. A lot of people were saying that, or Lightning is, worthless and all that. And it's like, here I am, I use Stacker News pretty much every day. I get value for value sats being streamed by the listeners to this podcast pretty much every day. I use custodial Lightning wallets and non-custodial Lightning wallets. I run my own Lightning node, and I'm like, what the fuck are these people talking about where it doesn't work?
I don't know.
I don't understand this.
Yeah, me too. Like I was really surprised. I won't even get into it, but someone on Twitter mentioned exactly that. Wow, Lightning actually worked for a change for me, and I was like, man, what are you talking about? Like way over a year now. I mean. Back in the day, when the first Lightning conference was in Berlin, okay, you assumed that some payments would fail, but we already had a beer machine where you can pay a Lightning invoice and the beer would magically pour itself automatically into your glass, and we had all kinds of amazing things, and everything kind of worked most of the time. Of course, like 25% of payments or whatever failed, but it was so young, and very soon after that, for me, everything just worked, and just like you, I'm on the receiving end of set streams for Podcasting 2.0. I co-host a podcast in German, and we were one of the first Lightning-enabled podcasts. And so from day one of Podcasting 2.0, I've been receiving streaming sets, and I receive streaming sets like every hour of every day. I use Lightning every single day for exactly the things that you mentioned, on Second News and all the rest of it. I pay my fucking coffee every day in Lightning, because the fucking coffee dude is orange pilled, and he really enjoys getting paid in Lightning because that's his way to stack sats. It's very good non-KYC sets, and so Lightning has worked for a very long time, and it's just. I feel like if it doesn't work for you, then you just don't know what you're doing. And we're just still in this phase where you kind of need to know what you're doing. But this is also to be expected. I mean, just try to connect to the internet in the early 90s, like it was fucking hard. And just try to do whatever, like when this stuff is new, like sending an email was such a pain. And it's not Lightning's fault, basically. It's just these things take time to develop, and a lot of, I mean, for Podcasting 2.0, for example, like it's such a hack, it's just key send payments, and they were never intended for this, and it's just all like 100 different ways of terrible, but it works, and it works for now, and it's beautiful. And someone in Africa can just start a podcast and set up a wallet. It doesn't really matter too much if it's custodial or non-custodial or what have you, and just receive sats, and that's so powerful. You can receive the hardest money ever known to mankind instantly over the internet from strangers without any ID, without asking for anyone's permission. This person could be like 7 years old and talk into a microphone and get streaming sets from everywhere on earth. It's so powerful. It's so beautiful. And just fuck all the haters, man. Like they have no idea what they're talking about. It's so annoying. It's so annoying. It's Bitcoin is so beautiful and it works so perfectly, and it has worked perfectly for way over a decade. And if you just don't get it, then have fun with your shit coins and do something else. Just leave us alone, and we'll build it out, and it will work beautifully in the future. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, and then they'll come after it's been built out.
Yeah, well, obviously, like Bitcoin is not optional. That's also what people don't understand. Very much like the internet is not really optional. If you want to participate in society, you need to use the internet, and you need to have smartphones and those kind of things. And Bitcoin will be even less optional than that. Bitcoin is hard money is not optional. You'll get wrecked. You'll just get increasingly wrecked over the next couple of decades if you don't make sense of Bitcoin, and if you don't hold Bitcoin for yourself, and if you don't know how to use Bitcoin properly. And so Bitcoin is anything but optional. It might seem like a fun project to a lot of people, but yeah, it's not fun and games. Like, we're way past the fun and games stage, even though it is very hilarious, like I said in the beginning. It's not all doom and gloom, far from it. So have fun on the ride, but still, like, to all the skeptics out there, I mean, no skeptic will listen to this podcast. I have no illusions, but still, just
it's
be
a free
very
market,
careful.
Gigi. They can listen if they want.
Yeah, of course. But just to all the other Bitcoiners out there, just maybe try to tell some of the no coiners, like, just be very careful what you laugh about. Like you might want to just take a serious look into those kind of things. Like, it's. Like I always like to use the internet as an analogy. It was fun to laugh about the internet in the beginning. And it's just, what are you doing, hiding behind your computer all day and so on. Yeah, well, the internet disrupted basically absolutely everything, and Bitcoin is even more disruptive. So just be careful. Like just use your attention wisely, and maybe point some of your attention towards Bitcoin and try to understand it.
Yeah, that's gonna have to be the name of the episode. Bitcoin's not optional. Which is super
really
powerful. Yeah, no, I mean, I know that inherently as a Bitcoiner, but I've not only never heard anybody say it like that, but I've actually never thought about it in that way. And you're right. Over time, it's you're gonna have to be plugged in, and if you're not plugged in, you're gonna miss out.
It will be increasingly obvious as the clown world and the fiat system crumbles. I mean, Marty's worst call was calling peak clown world in summer last year or something. Like, we're so far from peak yet. It's just gonna get worse, and fiat currencies will fail as they have failed in the past. Like, every single fiat currency in history so far has failed, and the euro will fail too, and the US dollar will fail too, and the yen will fail too, and they will all fail. And it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of when, not if. And so just be mentally prepared for that, and prepare yourself for it, and prepare your family for it. And that's what people don't realize. It's gonna get really ugly, because the macro situation as it looks, there is no way out of it. Like, we have painted ourselves into a corner collectively, by allowing the Federal Reserve to exist for such a long time. And there is just no way. Like, I don't know who said it first. Probably was Max Kaiser. You can't tape a Ponzi, and it's gonna explode one way or the other. And so I think we are in the beginnings of this playing out. And yeah, that's why Bitcoin is not optional. Like, Pierre said this like years and years and years ago about like the when the first discussions about toxicity came up, and like, we should be nice to people and explain Bitcoin in a better way and so on. And it's like, he was just going like, people will buy Bitcoin because they have to eat. And yeah, that's it. That's the summary of it all. Like, you will be like, you will have no choice. It's very much like holding US dollars in Venezuela. It's not a choice. Like, bolivars are absolutely worthless. If you want to eat, you need to have something else. And the same will be true just on a larger scale. And fiat money by fiat money, these systems will fail. And also, one thing that becomes very obvious currently is there is no alternative. It's either Bitcoin or it's slavery. Like, it's Bitcoin or CBDCs, and CBDCs are just outright slavery. And so if you want to have any resemblance of freedom, you need to understand Bitcoin, and you need to hold Bitcoin, and you need to use Bitcoin, and you need to understand those things. There is no other way. It's either that or slavery.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I think one of your tweets has a little while back was I'm gonna butcher this, but it was somewhere along the lines of avoid being rug pulled in all facets of your life, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
I thought that was fascinating in itself. It said so much in just one sentence. And you're right. When everything's up against us, I'm gonna speak here specifically in the U.S., but when the healthcare system's against you, when everything tied to the spigot of fiat is against you, then you need to avoid getting rug pulled by any of those arenas, education, you name it, all that stuff. So
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, to be fair, I think a lot of Bitcoiners realize this, and a lot of Bitcoiners are in a good spot because they worked on this over many, many years. And of course, it's hard and it's a lot of work, and you really need to think this through, and you need to constantly improve and work on it and so on. But it's just about I mean, Katie is the best person to talk to when it comes to this, the whole flag theory aspect of it. Try to maybe get a second passport. If your especially if your passport is shit, like there are good and bad passports. Inform yourself, like if borders are shut down again, how can you still travel? How can you leave the country if you have to? Maybe try to get set up in another country. At least get to know some people, have some friends in another country. That's very helpful already. Maybe if you only have like one bank account or something, if you still have bank accounts, I'm just speaking generally. Like if you have, for example, if you still have a fiat income stream, maybe try to get 2 or 3 fiat income streams, and maybe get multiple bank accounts in multiple jurisdictions. Maybe, just set yourself up in a way that you don't have a single point of failure, where you can just, if push comes to shove, leave your jurisdiction easily. Hold your exit costs very low, for example. Also, that's also one idea. Learn a new skill, become employable, provide value to the world. Don't kind of rely on any kind of models or on your stack or on trading or what have you. Like all of that is not very smart. It's not very anti-fragile, to use Taleb's term. And just try to position yourself for the chaos that might unfold. It's not sure. Like there are no guarantees, but the existing system is very unstable, and so just try to bring yourself into a position where you can weather the storm. And this means also take care of your health, get enough sleep, take care of your mental health, work out, eat healthy things, go get stable relationships, like take care about the people that care about you, make some friends, and those kind of things. Like all of this will be very important going forward.
And buy a shitload of guns.
Buy guns, shake your farmer's hand, all the rest of it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Gigi, I'm gonna hit on one more topic here before we sign off. This kind of just speaks on the resilience of Bitcoin as a whole. But I do know that a lot of people, especially not only in the mainstream but in Twitter, they love like the monetary properties of Bitcoin, and they love to talk about those things and focus on those things. I have, since I've gone, been orange pilled, I've found life benefits all over that have nothing to do with monetary. Some of them you've already highlighted there. I've had the closest relationships I've ever had because of Bitcoin. Been in the best health I've ever been in because of Bitcoin. Like to say I've been the most. So what is it about, you get where I'm going. What is it about Bitcoin? And there may not be one answer that kind of gets this out of people, and it has nothing to do with the monetary property.
Yeah, well, it's such a good question. I mean, the John Vallis has been exploring this for the last, 3 years now or so, and there's still no definitive answer why it is. It's actually the first lesson of 21 lessons that you won't change Bitcoin. Bitcoin will change you. And so I think, it's in part because of that. It's in part because Bitcoin is this unchanging, unmoving object, so to speak, and so you have to align with it. You have to align with Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't have to change for you. And so I think you just have to adjust your worldview a little bit depending on your background. Like I personally had to burn off probably 90% or 95% of my old self to even be able to make sense of Bitcoin, to accept Bitcoin in the first place. That sounds very weird and very esoteric, but it's also very true. And I think it's a combination of two things. I mean, I obviously thought about this for a very long time because I saw it all over the place. I went through the same transformation as you did. It's still ongoing. And I just, I orange pilled some of my very close friends, and I just, have a lot of friends in the Bitcoin space. And so I saw this happening over and over and over again. So it's just a constant, you know. In the beginning, it was kind of a fun joke that, you know, like Bitcoin will fix you and your life, and you'll start to eat meat and all the rest of it. and of course, you know, like it was a bit of a joke at first, but I don't think it is anymore. I think it's undeniable that there are certain kind of truths, certain properties embedded in Bitcoin, and they rub off on the people that use it and especially try to understand it deeply and try to align with it. And I think it's two things especially. I mean, Saifedean wrote about this as well at length, that first and foremost, you will lower your time preference. And so you will become more future oriented. And so you will take care of your future self. And Bitcoin allows you, because if you understand Bitcoin properly, Bitcoin will be there for you. And I've said in the past that I'll bet my life on the fact that Bitcoin will be there for me 10 years from now. You know, like I can't say the same thing about my bank, for example. You know, it's all and gone. And I even can't say it about the euro or, you know, the nation state I'm in or what have you. You know, like everything is very uncertain. Bitcoin is very certain. The system is very certain. And you can actually understand how it works and why it will still be there. And so you can suddenly plan for the future. And you can, and if you have a future, you want to have a nice future. So you plan financially, you know, like you do things for the long term. You start to take care about yourself because suddenly a future exists for you. You know, like I mean, American Hodl said it beautifully as well. Bitcoin is a cure for nihilism. You know, and I think if you're stuck in the rat race and you don't know what's going to happen and you live like day to day, week by week, it's very easy to lose hope and become nihilistic. And that's also why Saylor said, you know, Bitcoin is hope, and he has hope.com, and there's all Bitcoin stuff there. And Bitcoin is hope because it allows you to plan for the future. And then you have a longer time horizon and you take care of your future self, which implies you take care of your health, you take care of your family, you take care of your whole situation and so on. But I think that's only one side of the coin, the time preference part. And of course, I mean, part of the time preference is because Bitcoin is the hardest money humanity has ever seen, and it's still monetizing. So you are riding the exponential wave of Bitcoin's monetization process, and you'll be better off with it. Like just, you know, zoom out and you'll see. I mean, the charts don't lie. and so it's kind of it puts you in a way better position if you're actually staying humble and stacking sats and not playing stupid games. Then Bitcoin will allow you to put your future self in a better position, kind of easily, so to speak. You know, it allows you to save again. It allows you to plan for the future. It shows you the opportunity cost. So you will again, you know, to quote Pierre, the high velocity trash economy, that's what Fiat produces. You just buy shit you don't need. You just buy all the stupid shit from China and you have no idea why you even bought it, and you throw it away after 2 weeks. With Bitcoin, that changes because you will immediately see, you know, okay, the iPod that I bought back in the day, you know, that could have been like 25 Bitcoin or whatever. You know? Like it shows this opportunity cost very, very clearly. And, you know, a lot of Bitcoiners know the alpaca socks, you know, that were sold in the beginning. It was one of the first online merchants that sold the physical good for Bitcoin. And people bought alpaca socks for, you know, like 10 Bitcoin each or what have you. And so, and I mean, this is still happening. And I don't blame these people at all. Like I spend Bitcoin daily, you know, I will look back and it's like, okay, at the coffee place, I spent like 1 million sats or what have you. And it's like, okay, yeah, that was stupid. Well, was it really? You know, I mean, I orange pill people in the process. You know, if you are on a 100% Bitcoin standard, you have to spend sats. And as long as your monetary inflows, as long as you make more than you spend, it's perfectly fine. The denomination doesn't really matter. So as long, like at the end of every week, if you have more sats to your name than you had before, you know, it was a great week. So I don't believe in like never ever spending, because I also want to experiment with this stuff. I want to, you know, like boost for podcasts, and again, you know, like I'm going to upvote on Stacker News and all the rest of it. And so that was one side of the equation. It's opportunity cost and lowering of time preference. The second side, and I think that's a very interesting one. There's actually 3 things. So remind me, I'll come back to the third one too. Okay. The second one is responsibility. That if you use Bitcoin properly, you have to take responsibility. And I mean, I was harping on about this before. You have to hold your own keys. You just have to. Otherwise, you're not using Bitcoin. Someone else is using Bitcoin in your name. So you're just holding an IOU. And so if you want to use Bitcoin properly, you absolutely have to hold your own keys. And this implies responsibility. You need to be responsible for this key material. You need to actually sit down, and stamp the fucking 24 words into a steel plate and put it somewhere, or, create a multi-sig setup or what have you. Like you actually need to take care of these things. And suddenly you realize, hey, I can be responsible. I can actually do those things. And then it seeps out into other areas. And of course, with Bitcoin, it doesn't stop there, because what Bitcoin is, no one can tell you what Bitcoin is. That's the beauty of a decentralized system. You yourself have to decide what Bitcoin is for yourself, which implies running your own node, which implies studying the system. And, do you want to run Bitcoin with or without SegWit, with or without Taproot? What is Bitcoin to you? There are some people that are very, very religious about Bitcoin, and they're running the original clients that Satoshi still touched, And
Oh, wow.
so that's fine too, that's Bitcoin too. If this is Bitcoin for you, so be it. And so this will also continue. This process will continue. That's also why I don't agree with some people. Breedlove, for example, said this, and I disagree heavily that toxicity was necessary in the beginning and now it is misplaced. No, this process will go on forever, because no one can define what Bitcoin is. You have to decide for yourself. So the masses can be led astray what Bitcoin is and what should be. Bitcoin, there is no definitive answer about what Bitcoin should be. There is not even a definitive answer about what Bitcoin is right now. There is only somewhat of an answer what Bitcoin was in the past. And there's like this meta rule of we want to be backward compatible. So as long as we are still in consensus backward in time, we're fine. But we also know that this is not true. Like in the end, social consensus rules. Like if there would be a catastrophic bug in Bitcoin, we would be able to fix it and arrive at consensus again, and that would be Bitcoin. And we saw that example on other chains, like with the DAO rollback in ETH, like the social consensus overruled, and the fork became ETH proper and the other one became ETH classic. And we will have these kind of situations in Bitcoin forever, because we know there is a date bug, in like 80 years from now, or maybe even longer, I don't know, that might require a hard fork. No one has figured out yet how to fix it with a soft fork. So we will always be in this situation where you yourself have to take responsibility and decide for yourself what Bitcoin is. And you will have to, run your node and define the consensus parameters and tell the world that this is Bitcoin for me. And if you want to send me Bitcoin, I will validate the Bitcoin for myself, and so on and so forth. And this all sounds very esoteric, but it's just a technical reality, and the esoteric properties come out of the technical base reality of how the system works. And this will always be the case. And if Bitcoin gets captured and we only have like 3 nodes that define what Bitcoin is, then Bitcoin has failed, because then it's just like the central banking system. And so all of these things are terribly important. And so this responsibility, again, it seeps out into other areas of your life, and that's very transformative, of course, as well. And the third thing is, and that's what John talks about a lot, Bitcoin is the most pristine representation of intersubjective value that we ever had. Like, value is very subjective. What you value, I can't dictate. But money is like a representation of intersubjective value, and it's like a value signal. And also Bitcoin kind of takes care of you. If you take care of Bitcoin, Bitcoin will take care of you. And most Bitcoiners don't have to care about money. So they are freed up to pursue whatever is most meaningful in their life. Because what would you do if money is no object? Most Bitcoiners find themselves in this situation. Like, money is not an object anymore. It's like, It's about fixing the money. It's not about making the money. You're not stuck in the rat race anymore, because you're outside of the system, and Bitcoin will be there for you. And most likely Bitcoin will increase in purchasing power, and so on and so forth. And you can always use Bitcoin, and you cannot be deplatformed, and you don't have to ask for permission to do anything with your money. So you are in full control of your financial life. And suddenly, okay, what do I want to do? What do I want to work on? What do I really want to do with my life? And this is also very transformative. Like, people start to, like a lot of Bitcoiners get religious again, for example, and explore these topics, or, start large families, or, do whatever, and to start ventures, start companies. And I think it's all kinds of beautiful. Like, it's very transformative. And I mean, I'm not surprised why people are talking about, like the second coming of Jesus Christ embodied in Bitcoin. Like, I've said this in the past too, and I'm only half joking.
Yeah. I was the third part there is all of it, actually, but the third part is you said it better than I have been saying it. What I've been telling people is that, like, I believe charlatans are birthed from wanting to make fiat, right? So like the fiat's birthed to charlatans, and when you remove yourself from caring about the fiat or wanting to like acquire more fiat, then you separate yourself in a sense, and then you stop becoming a charlatan or trying to do charlatan shit to other
Yeah.
people to get their money. But you said it a lot more eloquent than I just did. But
Yeah, and there's so many more layers to it. So there is also the fact, for example, that Bitcoin is the truth machine, you know, like a lot of people talk about it in that sense. So Bitcoin literally cannot lie to you, and it cannot lie to you because it makes up its own truth by definition, and you are in charge of this truth. So you run your own node, you do the validation. Bitcoin cannot lie to you, like it just can't. That's the way the system works. And so I think this also kind of wraps off, but more importantly, it is no one can take away your Bitcoin. Like, you cannot take someone else's Bitcoin. You cannot steal. It is not fiat. You cannot inflate it. You cannot steal by inflation, and you also cannot steal by force. So you have to provide a good or service, and someone else has to pay you willingly. And this is very different. Like, Bitcoin removes violence from the equation, because you can provide hash power anonymously. You can point a satellite dish somewhere and be in I don't know where. In Antarctica, mining on I don't know what. But it's you know what I mean. It's like if you don't know where people are geographically, it's very hard to pressure them violently. And also, I always bring up the same examples. It's if you have 12 words in your head, you cannot take this value out of the person's brain violently. Like, people can die with their Bitcoin in their head. And so it inverts this power dynamic. And everyone who is interested in this should definitely read The Sovereign Individual, which talks about this. Like, the power of cryptography is that it completely inverts the power balance. So you as the defender are favored in 10 quadrillion times to 1. It's like, it doesn't matter if the Chinese army and the Russian army and the US army and whatever the fuck Europe has conspires against you and wants to steal from you. In Bitcoin, they can't. And that's very, very powerful. And also, I think, very transformative on just having this power on an individual level and understanding this, but also in society, like, nation states, make no mistake, like, taxes exist and taxation is insane in our current day and age. If you look back to the founding fathers, like, they started a revolution because of 2% taxes, and
I tell people that all the time.
We are in a very different situation now, where taxes are insanely high, but still most of the government funding comes from money printing, and so most of the population is stolen from all the time, and so the whole value system, the whole, like, money itself is completely broken, and the whole value signal is skewed, and you're getting stolen from all the time. And Bitcoin actually fixes this. And I think this is also very transformative, that you actually have to provide value. That's the only way how you can receive Bitcoin. Always. Like, either you mine or you provide a good or service or what have you. It's like, you cannot steal from the system itself. Of course, you can steal someone else's private key and so on, but that's not what I mean. You cannot extract value from the system itself without providing anything of value. And that's also very transformative. You actually have to think about, how am I going to make money on the Bitcoin standard? And that is to your point, like, you can't be a grifter, basically. You can't move close to the fiat monetary spigot and just do nothing and steal from other people. It's not possible in the Bitcoin standard.
Is this alien technology, Gigi? What we've never seen anything like this. There's so many different ways to tackle this and angle this. I'm one of those guys that seems to think, well, I'm not the only guy, but, like, aliens are just, like, a future human civilization that has figured out time travel, and they can come back and kind of. So I'm one of those guys. This has to be some type of Satoshi was some type of alien. I don't know. It's amazing.
The conspiracy theory that I like most is that it's a time traveling AI, and it went back in time and created Bitcoin to kind of bootstrap itself and finance itself in the future and so on. But no, I think the origins of Bitcoin are very human. I think. Bitcoin did not come out of nowhere. I have a piece on Bitcoin's prehistory, which is called "Bitcoin is an Idea." It's actually a book of a chapter of my upcoming book that I'm still trying to write, but I'm kind of failing constantly. Writing is hard, it turns out.
Super hard.
And so I kind of looked at all the systems that tried to do what Bitcoin now does before Bitcoin, and the cypherpunks and cryptographers in general try to do digital money for the longest time, like, and ideas around it, like in science fiction and so on, existed for like 50 years plus before Bitcoin came around. Like some of these ideas are very like quote unquote old. And so if you study these kind of things, it's kind of obvious that Bitcoin, like it wasn't aliens that came and suddenly, tada, we have Bitcoin. It's just the fact that if you are able to create a digital bearer asset, a lot of things change. Just because you can have 12 words in your head and that's all your wealth, you know, like it's also related to value density. Like good money needs to have high value density, and Bitcoin has infinite value density because it's just information. So all of this is just very powerful. Like you can walk through the border control, you know, and you have like $500 billion US in your head. Like that would actually be possible, and it just changes things drastically. And I mean, we just went through the whole idea of, you know, like what does a perfectly scarce asset do to humanity that is actually liquid and saleable and teleportable? You know, like you don't need anything to send Bitcoin. You just need a communications channel. So that's insanely powerful, and it's also perfectly limited, like 21 million, never more. So all these new things are wrapped up in Bitcoin, and that's why it's so strange and transformative, and it's very easy to think that it's alien technology. But what Bitcoin's prehistory and Bitcoin's early history will teach you that it is very human. And we tried to solve these problems for a very long time. A lot of people tried. And Bitcoin also was not perfect from the get-go. Satoshi made a bunch of mistakes, and there were a bunch of bugs that had to be fixed. And Bitcoin was also centralized in the beginning, and we had a hard fork, at least one. There were probably a couple. I don't even know it from the top of my head anymore. But for example, one of the mistakes that Satoshi made that I always like to point out, that Satoshi probably was not a god, you know. He both in his description and in the implementation, he, like, Nakamoto consensus used to be the longest chain, which is wrong because it has to be the heaviest chain. It has to be the heaviest chain. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Like, otherwise, it is attacked very easily. And so this was fixed, and like our understanding of it was updated. And of course, you know, there were many other like weird quirks in Bitcoin, and some of them are still there. And the Bitcoin, the way I like to think about it is that there is a design space when it comes to money, and there is a design space when it comes to distributed systems that need to find consensus. And the design of Bitcoin is pretty much perfect. Like on the monetary side, you can't do better. You can't do better than absolute limitation. You can't do better than teleportation. You can't do better than infinite value density and all the rest of it. Infinitely divisible, basically, you know. And no, this does not serve this does not solve world hunger, Mrs. Coppola, with, you know, having one pizza and just giving everyone a pizza atom. So you're not multiplying Bitcoin by breaking it down to smaller fractions. So the design space of money is limited, and Bitcoin is perfect in that regard, I believe. And of course, you know, like all the shitcoin shows will come out now. No, you have to use Zcash because Bitcoin is not perfectly private, and all the rest of it. Yeah, no bullshit. Like taint is an extrinsic property. Bitcoin will always be able to flow, and Bitcoin will become more private over time. I'm not worried about this. And so the design space of distributed systems is also limited. Like you have very real limits when it comes to, for example, we have light speed. So to find consensus on Earth, you can only do it in the time window that is larger than 50 milliseconds, because light takes about 50 milliseconds to move from one point of the Earth to the other. And so that's why, you know, we can't have an infinitely small synchronization time, which is in Bitcoin what we call the block time. And so we have all these constraints, and Bitcoin found the sweet spot and is pretty much perfect. But that's just the design. The implementation is not perfect. Bitcoin was like a one file thingy, main.cpp, that someone that can write C++ wrote. The code was not very beautiful. It was definitely not a software engineer. It was more like a hacker, you know, like if you're a proper software engineer and worked in software for a very long time, you would have written the whole thing differently. It was just like I know that it looks weird, but I worked through, and he said this, you know, Satoshi said this, like I had to implement it to convince myself that it actually works. And after the implementation, he wrote the specification, he wrote the white paper and the explanation and all the rest of it. And he also knew that, you know, that the design was set in stone from day one, basically. You know, there's also something he said. And he also knew that it's more about the data structure and the design, and everything else can be fixed along the way. Like we can refactor the code, and we did. Like every single line of code in Bitcoin changed. Bitcoin, it's like the like the ship where you change a plank and then you have a new ship over time. And like, which one is the original ship? Yeah, which one is the original Bitcoin? Like every single line of code of Bitcoin changed, and it's still the same system. It's because the system itself is set up in a way that that it's insanely hard to change the architecture and the output and all the rest of it of the system. And so yeah, I think it's not alien technology. It's very human technology, but someone was insanely smart when it comes to designing this system, and he managed to implement it, which is also insane. Like like usually what happens is some academic comes up with something, or someone comes up with something, and then like for 25 years no one implements it because it sounds stupid and it's very hard to implement stuff. And Satoshi, it's I'm not surprised that a lot of people see God's hand in it, because what are the odds that someone that can dream this up can also actually implement it, and it works, and no one destroys it at the point in time where you can destroy it. It was funny internet money, and it still is to most people. It had to grow organically, and it had to bootstrap itself, and that's also why Satoshi did not want to have any unwanted attention with WikiLeaks and all the rest of it. And so it had to build up its security budget gradually. It had to build up everything had to build up gradually. It had to monetize itself gradually. It's also a very interesting question, like, when did Bitcoin become money? Like the first year or so, 10 months, I think, it had no value whatsoever. Like people just sent it around for fun. There was no monetary value added to it whatsoever. And then we had the first with Liberty Reserve, like the first kind of value exchange for US dollars and so on. And then we had the pizza transaction, of course. And it took a very long time for this to even kick off the monetization process. And when was it actually secure? That's why I'm so like, that's what the shitcoiners don't get. It's like your shitcoin was not attacked yet, Bitcoin was attacked from the outside. Bitcoin was attacked from the inside. Bitcoin was attacked from the mining industry. We had a nation state attack just recently, China. China, like mining was banned in China, and everyone's like, oh yeah, Bitcoin can be 51% attacked so easily because all the mining is done in China and so on. Yeah, just look what happened. Like they forced all the miners out, and Bitcoin is fine. And of course, I think the block size war was the most important civil war in Bitcoin, because Bitcoin was actually attacked from the inside. And that's why all the shitcoins don't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what shitcoin you pick. Like, your shitcoin was not attacked from the inside yet. And Ethereum had this test and failed. And, I wouldn't be surprised, for example, if Monero got attacked from the inside properly. Like, for example, what most people don't know, Monero, you can't trust the monetary issuance of Monero because it hard forked like 10 times, and it might hard fork again. No one knows, because there were some people that said, okay, now we're going to hard fork like every 6 months. So the question of identity is a very tricky one, like which one is the real Monero? It hard forked so many times. And then the people said, we don't really need hard forks anymore because now we're good. So we're going to stop the hard fork schedule. Okay, what if Monero is not good anymore because we need more tail emission? Also, what most people don't know is that Monero is basically unlimited. It has a constant tail emission, like Monero will always be mined indefinitely. It has no sensible, no reasonable, no limited monetary policy. What if like the budget runs low and the developers that are working on it want to get paid more, and it's like, we're going to start the hard forks again. We're going to increase the tail emission by just a little bit and so on. Like, can you really trust this system? And what people also don't realize is that, security is linked to valuation. Like, if your shitcoin has a market cap of like $100, it's very easy to stamp it out. It's very easy to attack it. It's very easy to crash the whole thing. And so it's all wound up in this hot big mess of incentives and valuation and monetization. And the blockchain only can secure its own native token, nothing else. Like, that's the Oracle problem in a nutshell. And so all blockchains compete in the monetary space, and the only thing that works is proof of work. So all proof of work blockchains compete for energy. And that's why I think it's a winner takes it all market. And that's why I think, it's just playing stupid games if you think other things are going to outperform Bitcoin and so on. Bitcoin is basically perfect when it comes to its monetary properties, and it's so far ahead. Like, just look at the charts of the hash rate. It's laughable. Yeah. You don't even see any other lines. Bitcoin has 100% of the hash rate, basically. It's it's so game over. It's such a joke, and that's why I hate mentioning even specific shitcoins. Everyone mentions Ethereum all the time because everyone mentions Ethereum all the time. There is no reason for Ethereum to be number 2, none at all. Like, there's 100 other shit chains that do the same thing as Ethereum. And it's, that are as shitty. That's why Udi made fun of Ethereum by pointing out that Tron is like 100 times better because it's 100 times more centralized, and you can do everything that Ethereum does 100 times more efficiently. And so like it used to be, I like Bitcoin by Litecoin because Bitcoin is gold and Litecoin is silver, and we need digital gold and digital silver. And because Bitcoin has these limitations, we need Litecoin, and that's why we are shilling you Litecoin, and you actually need to have some Litecoin, and you need to use Litecoin for your coffee transactions, and you need to use Litecoin for divisibility, and you need to use Litecoin if you want to spend something faster, and so on. And now we have the same shit all over again. It's just some privacy coins, and it's just so tiresome, and all the Bitcoiners, I think, are just fed up with it. And that doesn't mean that Bitcoin doesn't have any problems at all. I'm just saying, and I'm gonna actually publish this today or tomorrow. I'm sorry for ranting on that for so long, but it just really rubs me the wrong way because and the reason why it rubs me the wrong way is that people need to use these things because it's a life or death situation. And because of shitcoiners, people are aping into Celsius and all the rest of it. And people don't realize how important this is and what kind of destruction they bring by recommending other things to people. Let's put it like this. And I'm all for let the market figure it out. Like I'm not here to tell you what you should use. Like the markets will figure it out in the long run, and I'm here for monetary competition and so on. I'm just trying to tell people that look at the monetary competition, look at the competition in the mining space, look at the numbers, you will see the Bitcoiners are already won. And so why waste time? I mean, if you're not resistant to nation state attacks, what are you even doing? Like the fiat system is crumbling, nation state attacks not only will come, but are underway, like again, European Union banning unhosted wallets, banning proof of work mining and so on. Like it's not playtime anymore, it's wartime. And so why waste time with shitcoins? Why waste time with shitcoiners in the first place? It's also nonsensical. And what I actually wanted to mention is that the way to fix the internet was not to build a second internet. The internet was plain text 15 years ago. And it took Edward Snowden and his revelations to take these things seriously and take encryption, strong encryption seriously, and build SSL and HTTPS and end-to-end encryption into absolutely everything. And we managed it. It was hard. It took a very long time. It took a lot of engineering. It took a lot of effort. It took a lot of coordination, no doubt about it. But the fix was not to build a second internet. And that's why I'm advocating to use Bitcoin. And there are also ways to use Bitcoin wisely and privately and so on. Don't use any shitcoins. Like it doesn't make any sense at all. And if you want to dig deeply into why, I think Giacomo is the best person to explain why. And okay, I know there are other people that will tell you, Bitcoin has these kind of privacy problems. And okay, fine. But the solution is not to use a shitcoin. It is just not. Because if you just use a shitcoin for transactions, for example, the shitcoin will have no value because that's not where the value comes from. And so your shitcoin will have no security budget, and your shitcoin will have no decentralization, and your shitcoin will be just a shitcoin that can't be spied upon and can be, controlled very easily. And it's also a liquidity problem. So you want to hide in a crowd that is as large as possible. And so if no one is using the fucking shitcoin, then your crowd will be very small, and so on and so forth. And so I just had to get this off my chest because it really annoys me that the world is fucking going up in flames. No, the world is going up in flames, and people are still wasting their time on shitcoins. It's not the time for those stupid kind of games. It really is not. We should all work on Bitcoin. We should all make Bitcoin better. We should all do Bitcoin education. We should bring other people into the lifeboat. And also, I think currently it's Satoshi trying to solve both things. Satoshi tried to do anonymous digital eCash, and he also built anti-bailout technology and tried to fix the money printing. And we can have long debates what is more important, but I think currently it's undoubtedly the money printing is making way more trouble than anything else. It's like fix the money, fix the world. We're gonna take care of the rest in due time. It just really rubs me the wrong way that people are still kind of misleading people and are just wasting everyone's time with the shitcoinery. It's in the end, it's the Litecoin argument, like I like Bitcoin, but you have to use Litecoin too because we need silver to our gold, and it's just so stupid. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, seems like the Bitcoiners, especially like yourself, who are putting so much work out there, are basically pointing at the cliff and saying, "There it is. You guys are about to fall off the fucking cliff." And for some reason, people were just not paying attention. And they're like, "Who's that guy that's just screaming at the top of his lungs about nonsense?" It's like, no, the cliff, the cliff.
Yeah, Moses was also a crazy person until the flood came. You know, it is what it is.
Good point. Good point. So, Gigi, so what has you excited? We're about to sign off here, but what has you excited in the Bitcoin space? It could be, in the next year, the next 5. What is it, something that you got your eye on and you're excited about?
Oh man, so many things. I mentioned some of them already. I think in general, the thing that will be most obvious is kind of the streaming sats and the value for value idea, because I really think it has the power to, take a big bite into the advertisement world, like the way that the internet monetizes itself, so to speak.
Oh yeah.
The prevailing way of making money online is just, by creating thumbnails that always look like someone stepped on a Lego and just tell everyone to like and subscribe and all the rest of it. And I'm super bullish on value for value because it allows you to build something out and just in a permissionless way without any middleman receive the best money we ever had instantly, and it's instantly settled and you don't know who's sending you money. You're just providing value to the world and value will come back, in one form or another. And I think it's the right model to monetize information because information wants to be free and there's no reason to put anything behind the paywall. Paywalls are broken anyway. Like if the content is good, people will set the paywall free, like we'll set the content free. You'll create you'll rip it off or copy paste or make a screenshot and put it on social media. It's like, how good is a blog post if it stays behind the paywall? Like it's shit. That's the paywall paradox.
Exactly.
And so I'm super bullish on that. I can't wait to see what other people come up with. Podcasting 2.0 is obviously the first use case, but it will also work. It already does work for video. It also works for written content. I think it will also work for books and other things. And that's very, very beautiful. There are many things on the technical side that I'm excited about. I'm excited about some of the privacy improvements in Bitcoin. I'm excited about Taproot still. Like we haven't seen anything yet that this enables. I'm excited about like the upcoming soft forks that are kind of planned or on the horizon. Cross input signature aggregation will again will improve everything that is still kind of not optimal in Bitcoin step by step. I'm very confident about it. I'm super bullish on Lightning. As you probably know, I think we'll figure a lot of things out there too, and it will just get easier and easier. I'm super bullish also on like merchant adoption this time. I think it's the right time now. If you have a merchant that is actually hodling and in it for the sats, that's great. And I think we'll see a lot there with, NFCs, NFC technology integrated in Lightning wallets where it just tap a phone on a terminal or tap a phone on another phone or have something like the little cards and you just pay in that way that everyone in Europe is used to this. You just tap everything all the time. And I mean, with Apple Pay and the rest of it, I guess the whole world gets used to tapping on terminals and it just works. And I think we are very close to be able to do this on Bitcoin. And in the end, I think a lot of people won't even kind of care or know what kind of payment rails are used. And so there's many things that I have my eyes on. I also think the whole merging of the energy sector and the mining sector is super interesting. Like this, Marty talks about this a lot. The kind of the race of who will be first. Will it be energy producers that become miners, or will it be miners to become energy producers?
Yeah,
it's
huge.
Obviously happening already, and it's those two worlds are merging. And yeah, also nation state adoption is very like something I keep my eye on because again, as I said in the beginning, I think things will be unstable for a while still, but I think there will be some emerging countries that will move to a Bitcoin standard, just like El Salvador did. And I think it will get very interesting if like 3 or 4 or 5 countries do it, then the floodgates will be open. And other than that, it's just Bitcoin just needs to survive. And if it survives, it's gonna grow. And if it grows, we'll have these monetization barriers like it's gonna be like once we hit Mach 1, the sound barrier, it's gonna accelerate from there because once we hit for example a market cap of 10 trillion, then suddenly very large pools of capital can allocate their money towards Bitcoin, and this is going to be very interesting too. So yeah, I think everything is is going to be interesting. I guess in short.
Excited about a lot of that stuff too. But yeah, that's a great list there. The Valley for real, super bullish on it. The music industry and all the record label charlatans that hang out are going to be dead.
Definitely.
The feedback mechanism that it gives us creators, like a lot of the things that happen here in Talking in Bits when it comes to better lighting, better setting, all that, it's just the feedback mechanism coming from the sets, right? I could tell which episodes are actually doing well, what topics people like to hear, what guests people like to hear from. The splits now is a very fascinating, vector there to approach. And I actually posted last week that, hey, you give a topic ideas, I'll stream you some sets. I'll plug you in. You create some cover art, I'll give you some sets. You want to be on the show, 5%, right? Like a bunch of these different avenues to just explore. But it just makes the creator better. And you're right, it knocks down that barrier, and we could really be creative in our art and explore different arenas. So
yeah, that's so cool. And I think we will figure all this out. I mean, just as a reminder, it took us, I think, like 10 years to figure out how to be profitable on YouTube. It's like
good point.
No one was profitable on YouTube in the beginning, and now we have full-time YouTubers that can do it, and everyone knows kind of how it works and how to do and how to engage with your audience and how to maximize ad revenue and so on. And I think we will figure this out as well, just like Adam Curry figured it out. He was the first, and there will be ways to maximize set streams and how to do it properly and how to do it in a meaningful and sustainable way, and support the ecosystem while you're at it, and support open source development while you're at it, and include the audience in your set streams and include the guests and all the rest of it. I think it's such a beautiful system. Like again, Bitcoin is still magic internet money, and it's programmable money, and it's amazing that we can send fractions of the hardest money we've ever had as humanity instantly to other people and settle it instantly, and you just have a stream of sets flowing in. Like there are certain kind of events in a Bitcoiner's life that are just mind blowing, where like the first Bitcoin transaction that you sent, and the first Lightning payment that you send, and the first time you recover a wallet because you lost it, and those kind of things, like, and it's like, wow, it actually works. And and for me, such a moment was being on the receiving end for streaming sets for the first time. It absolutely blew my mind. And then you see the sets streaming in. It's like 3 sets and 5 sets and 8 sets and 1 set, and it's like every minute something came in, and it's like, it's insane. Like, it was like, who are these people that are sending me money for this? Like, that's amazing.
Same here.
I can highly recommend it to absolutely everyone to give it a try, or find a way to be included in some value stream, and just check on your note and see the numbers pop up. It is a lot. It is really magic and fun. It is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I remember that first 50 sets I got. I was like, holy shit! Like, this is somebody's listening out there.
Yeah,
super cool stuff. All right, Gigi, fascinating conversation, man. I appreciate it. Please let the listeners know wherever you want to send them, whether you want to follow you or your work, anywhere you want to send them.
Yeah, well, if you want to participate in the live brain dumps of mine, there's no better place than Twitter. So I'm Gigi on Twitter. And also just my Twitter handle, dirtgigi.com, is my site where I publish all my writing, and I've links to all the projects I'm involved with. And 21lessons.com is the book. 21waysbook.com is the second one that's still a work in progress. Some parts are already published. And yeah, that's about it.
All right. Awesome, Gigi. Appreciate you, brother. Guys, go check out Gigi's work. One of my favorite follows, somebody who, although he wants to be humble, has really taught me so much about Bitcoin, has really got me to the point where even in this conversation, I'm getting more and more bullish and more orange pilled. So definitely go follow Gigi. Please support the show. Our favorite ways to do it is Fountain app or Breeze app. Podcasting 2.0, as we just finished discussing, is the future of it. If you want to be a part of the show, reach out to me in the DMs, and we'll find a way to get you some sats as well, because ultimately this content is for you all. If you want to check out this 4K video, then you can check us out on Bitcoin TV. That's the best place to get the whole archive and the whole library of these videos. And if you're not there on the Bitcoin standard yet, well, you got to get there. But if you're on the legacy apps, Spotify, Apple, all those places, just do the good old review. And just, give a comment, and that's going to help us float up. But we really want to get you over to the Bitcoin standard of things. As always, we appreciate y'all. Gigi, thank you so much.
Thanks again for having me. It was a lot of fun.
You're very welcome, good sir. And we'll catch you guys next week. Take care.